Hi guys. So, sorry this video looks kind of funky, but it's just my lighting. Today we're going to work on perimeter and area, and so hopefully within the next few days you guys will be able to get this math packet that I made. If not, you are more than welcome to just take any kind of notes that you want to. And so I'm going to kind of show you what we're working on today and go from there. So today we're working on perimeter and area. So if you don't have your packet yet, which is okay, like I said, you can print some of this stuff out. The number one thing is obviously your reference sheet, okay? That's something we're gonna use. And then again, if you don't have this, it's perfectly fine, something you can just write down, take notes on piece and paper. So to start us off on perimeter and area, we're gonna start with perimeter. It's the distance around the figure. You've got to add all the sides. That's what happens when we're talking about perimeter. And then we have a section over here to the side where they're looking for the formulas and they tell you to use your reference chart. That's why we tell you when you're taking your test or anything like that, pull this out, okay? So we're gonna find perimeter, and the first one's gonna be of a rectangle. So when I look, there's a few different options I can write down. Perimeter equals the length plus the width plus the length plus the width. Or you could also write down perimeter equals 2L plus 2W. Okay, that's the quicker way. Then we have the perimeter of a square. So the perimeter of a square, if we look, is going to equal perimeter equals 4 times S, and we know the S stands for sides. All right, so there's a few steps we're going to look out here. And I know that for some people, if you're in my class especially, you'll know that we have a little song that goes with it if you want to sing it. So our steps are to draw a picture, write your formula, plug in what you know, and then you solve. So again, for a lot of my friends who know it, and we know that we're drawing a picture, write your formula, plug in what you know, plug in what you know, solve. All right, so then we've got an example over here to the side that we can use. So we're actually gonna look and see. I'm gonna look at my measurements, and I see that my measurements are two different measurements, which automatically tells me that it's a rectangle, not a square, because we know that a square has the same amounts on each side. So we're gonna be solving for a rectangle. So I'm gonna write, they already drew the picture for me. So then I'm gonna look at my next step, which is to write your formula. So I'm gonna look for a rectangle, and I like to do P equals 2L plus 2W. Then we're gonna go ahead and plug in what we know. So I don't know perimeter yet. I know that my length, I'm thinking about how long it is, okay, is 2 times 3. So we're getting rid of the L because we're plugging in 3, which goes in parentheses, plus 2 times my width is how wide it is, and it's going to be 4. All right, so then now I've plugged in everything I know, and in case you forget, anytime you have a number next to something in a parenthesis, that tells me I'm going to multiply, okay? So I've got 2 times 3 equals 6, plus 2 times 4 equals 8. So then I'm going to continue solving. Perimeter equals 6 plus 8. So I'll give you a second to figure that out. So I know the perimeter is going to equal 14. However, I have to go look at what my measurement is, and it's in inches. So perimeter equals 14 inches. Okay. All right. So then we're going to move on down to where it's talking about area. Okay. Same thing. Area, it's the space inside the figure. Okay. Area inside the figure. Okay. Make sure you got this down so far. Everybody good? Okay. Awesome. All right, sorry, 1 second, guys. 1 second. All right, guys, sorry, back to this. I wanted to make sure I had everything correct before I decided to go back over this and give you a little bit of time to catch up with it also, just in case you're copying the notes down. So back down to where we were, which is going to be area. Area is the space inside the figure. You've got to multiply two sides, okay? And then one thing we like to do also, which I didn't do a perimeter, I'm gonna go back up there and do this, is when we see the word perimeter, we always know the perimeter is the outside, it's around. So we like to draw that arrow around it, okay? And then when we talk about area, we know the area is the inside, okay? It's the inside of it. So now looking again at our formula sheet, we're looking at area, which is right here. And we're gonna start off with area of a rectangle, which is area equals length times width. Area equals length times width, okay? Then we're gonna go back and look at our square, which is area equals side times side. Equals side times side. So what we're gonna do is actually come back to this example and do the same thing, but with area, okay? So we're trying to find the area of, and we're looking, again, it's got two different measurements, which tells me it's not a square. So rectangle over here is area equals length times width. So again, they drew the picture. We just wrote our formula. Now we need to plug in what we know and then we'll solve. So when we plug it in, area equals length times width is 4 times 3, or 3 times 4, it's the same thing. And then I'm going to start solving. 4 times 3 is 12. And I go back and I look again, my measurement is inches. Now the second thing about area that we always need to remember is that we're only multiplying one side, which means we're forgetting about another side. So every time we do area and solve for it, we're going to solve for 12 inches squared, because what that means is that this side, we're doubling it, okay? So here's this part. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out for a quick second, and I'm going to give you a chance to go ahead and copy anything that you need to copy before we move on. All right. So here is this. And I'm just going to give you a chance to copy it for a second. And then in just a second, I'm going to move on to the other papers that we have in our packet. Again, once you have it, if not, just copy down what I'm copying down. It's not something that like we're going to freak out because we don't have it, because like I said, you should have paper and pencil or pen, whatever with you. So we're making the best of what we got. So once we're done with this, just make sure that you have out some paper or pencil so that you guys can do the work with me. All right, I'm gonna give you about 30 more seconds. All right, so at any point in time, you can come back to this, pause it, copy down notes if you're still having issues with it. Nothing big to worry about. Well, we're gonna go ahead and move on. And this is just some little thing that I added in your packet if you ever, or when you do get it. And this just helps us with what we talked about last week with word problems. I know that's what the videos where she worked on. So this gives you an idea of addition, subtraction, and how they're both inverse to each other. Looking at the addition sum, there's no total, different amounts, one-time increase, and then it shows you how it would look inside a strip diagram. And then some of our keywords that we're looking for that tells us to add, which is altogether, combined, total, or and. Okay. Then moving into subtraction, we're looking for the difference, the total. There's different amounts. There's a one-time decrease. Okay. Excuse me. It tells us how it would look like in a strip diagram, that missing part. And then some clue words, how many, more or less, or compare. Okay. And then it also gives us information on multiplication and division, how those are inverse to each other. So for multiplication, we're looking for the word product. There's no total. There's equal groups. It's repeated addition, which we all know that. There's an increase. And then again, it shows us kind of with the strip diagram and then some clue words. I know it looks a little messy here, but it'll be a little more clear on your paper. Altogether, combined, and total. And then for a division, we're looking for the quotient, okay? These are gonna be those big words that are the vocabulary for the answers and stuff like that. So that for quotient, so it has a total, there's equal groups, it's repeated subtraction. That's what division is. It's a decrease, and then again, we see something like this and how it could look looking at some kind of picture, strip diagram, stuff like that. So just threw that in there for you guys to keep. And then we're going to practice some problems. So we know that some of us can do great on our area and perimeter, but man, those word problems can seem a little tricky for us. So I wanted to make sure that we were able to do it together. And I was going to do it real time with you so you can see how I might have moments where I get stuck on some things too. I'm not going to lie to you because like I said, even us teachers are humans and we're going to make mistakes too. So we're going to start with this first one. Melinda has a rectangular flower garden. The width of her garden is 5 feet. Melinda uses 60 feet of edging to go around the garden. What is the length in feet of Melinda's garden? And tells us to record our answer in the box below because this is something we need to know how to do for our test. Fill in the bubbles and be sure to use the correct place value, especially now that we know that we have decimals that come into hand now. We want to make sure it's in the correct place. So I'm thinking back to all of my different steps of what I did, and I'm thinking back, okay, area and perimeter, what do I do first, okay? This is when this wonderful song is going to come in handy for us to remember, okay? So I'm going to come and look at my steps again. I have to draw a picture, write my formula, plug in what I know, and then I'm going to solve. And don't forget this packet, take it apart, pull apart what you need to, okay? So I have to draw a picture. So I'm going to look through first. And honestly, actually, and I always skip this part and I always forget, okay? I need to do quest because I see a word problem. So circling my question mark and I'm underlining to my words, what is the length in feet of Melinda's garden? So we want to know the length and then in feet, okay? So the length of Melinda's garden is blank feet. All right, I've got my goal statement there. So then I'm going to go back and look and see what I could pull out from this. Melinda has a rectangular flower garden. Remember, we're going to stop at every single and or period. So I'm going to stop here. Melinda has a rectangular garden. That's something important I know, and that's going to help me so I can draw my picture because I'm drawing a rectangle, okay? The width of her garden is 5 feet. I'm going to stop here. The width of her garden is 5 feet. That's the important thing I need to know, the width. Then the next thing I know is that Melinda uses 60 feet of edging to go around the garden. I'm going to stop here. 60 feet. That was her total, was 60 feet. So that means that's going to be my perimeter. All right, so now I've got my picture drawn out and I can start solving. So I drew my picture. Now I'm going to write my formula. So if I look back again, we're looking at when they talk about those clue words like, or is that, sorry, going around, that tells me I'm working with perimeter. We're looking for those clue words, okay? So perimeter equals, and I'm looking, I see it's 5 feet, but I don't know here, and it already told me it's a rectangle, so I need to have my formula for a rectangle. So P equals length plus width, or my favorite, the 2L plus 2W. So 2L plus 2W, okay? So I've drawn my picture, now I've written my formula. Now I'm gonna plug in what I do know. I do know my perimeter is 60 feet, okay? It equals 2, I don't know my length, that's what I'm trying to find out, so that stays there, plus 2 times my width is 5, okay? So I've plugged in what I do know, and I'm gonna go start solving from there. I'm gonna bring the 60 down with me, 2 times L plus 2 times 5, 10, okay? Now, as I'm looking at this, I can absolutely not add a whole number and a letter. This isn't gonna work, right? So I need to pull apart what I need to pull apart, okay? So this tells me that this is 5 feet here, okay? Now, I need to get this 10 over to another like number, which is gonna be 60. So what that means is I'm gonna subtract 10 from this side. So I know that 10 minus 10 gives me 0. But that means I also have to do the same over here. So that means I'm subtracting 10 over here. So 60 minus 10 equals 50. So 50 equals 2 times length. Now, I want to think in my head, what is the inverse of multiplication? Let me give you a second. What is that inverse of multiplication? I should have you thinking and you should know what it is. I know that the inverse is division. So this right here normally means I would multiply, but I can't multiply a whole number and a letter, so that means I'm going to do the inverse, which is division. So I would divide this by 2. 2 divided by 2 leaves me with just 1, so I get rid of that. There's only 1 length. Well, I have to do the same thing here, okay? So now I have 50 divided by 2, so half of 50. What is that going to be? 25. 25 equals my length, okay? So I just found out that this is 25. So we fill it in. The length of Melinda's garden is 25 feet, okay? All right, I'm gonna do one more that's gonna be actually working it out, and there's one last question that's just solving it, so it's gonna be super quick. So let's move on to number 2. Let me zoom in a little more so you can see. Super sorry. All right, so the area of Jody's rectangular garden is 108 square feet. The garden is 9 feet wide. What is the total length of fencing Jody will need to buy in order to fence in the garden completely on all 4 sides? So once again, I have a word problem. So I'm going to come over here. It's a pretty long one. What is, okay, the total length of fencing Jody will need to buy in order to fence in the garden completely on all 4 sides, okay? So Jody will need blank feet, because I see that over here, feet, of fencing. We're going to just simplify it a little bit, okay? And then I'm going to go back through and do my segmenting and tracking to see what else I could find for my quest. The area of Jody's rectangular garden is 108 square feet. We're going to stop there. All right, I've got a rectangle and I've got 108 square feet. So rectangle, and they told me that the area, oh, every time I see that word, I'm gonna box it and color it in. Area, okay, is 108 feet squared. It says that the garden is 9 feet wide. We're gonna stop here. So then 9 feet wide is what we need to know. What's the total length? So again, we're looking for the length. We don't know that yet. All right, so now I can go ahead. I've drawn my picture. I need to write my formula and then plug in what I know and solve. So my formula is gonna be, like I already said, area, and it's a rectangle. So I'm gonna come back and pause and look, and I've got area equals length times width. There we go. So drew my picture, wrote my formula. Now I'm going to plug in what I know. I already know. Now here's where people get tricky is they think, oh, 108 is going to be the width. No, it told you that the area is 108. So that's my total over here. So 108 feet squared equals, okay, so we're plugging in correctly what we know. Length times width, they told me that my width is 9, so I don't know my length, but I do know my width. Okay, so here's where I'm set up at. I've plugged in everything that I know. Okay, now we're back to a spot again. I cannot multiply a number and a letter together, so I have to think about what is the inverse of my multiplication. We just talked about this. It is division. So I have to divide my like numbers, which is going to be 9 and 108, because I need to know 9 times what gives me 108. That's what I need to find out. So I'm going to come to the side and do a little bit of division. This is why we need to know this, okay? And for my friends who remember it, there's that beautiful division song that we know when we're trying to figure out the Big Mama song to do this, okay? So this divided by this, cover up, got enough? Nope. Back it up, got enough? Yes. Give the man a seat. Count by 9, don't pass up 10, 9, 18. Oops, back it up, and a 1 pops up. And I say 1 times 9 is 9. Hook your line, subtract. Subtract, subtract, subtract. All right, 10 minus 9 gives me 1. Oh, pull down the shade. Every time we pull down the shade, we must count by 9. Don't pass 18. 9, 18, stop. And a 2 pops up. And I say 2 times 9 is 18. Hook your line, subtract. Subtract, subtract, subtract. 18 minus 18 is 0. There's no more shade, so my quotient is 12. And guess what we talked about again? Our quotient equals our answer for division. So that means that my length equals 12. That's what I just figured out. Okay? My length equals 12. So that means that this is 12, this is 12, which put that at 9. Okay, so I go and double check. There it is. Okay, give you a quick second in case you need a minute. So we're seeing how important it is for us to know our multiplication, our division, to know the clue words that we're looking for, to know how to do quest, and all of our steps to be able to just to solve the area and perimeter. This is why we want to make sure we know all these different things. And then the last problem we're going to do over here, number 3, is more of just a quick problem solving one, which should be pretty simple and easy. Paul's flower bed has a length of 6 feet wide and a width of 2 feet. Which formula should Paul use to find the distance around the flower bed? So they don't even want you to solve it. They just want you to know, what formula am I using? So for this one, I'm going to look at my clue words. I'm looking for where it talks about, it's talking about which formula should Paul use to find the distance around. I'm thinking in my head, and I'm going to go back and look at my sheet, which one of these talks about around? So area is the space inside the figure? No. Perimeter is the distance around. So I already know that it's going to be perimeter. So I'm going to write that down. Okay. Guess what? They're all perimeter. Great. So we are already on the right step. Okay. So, but now I'm going to look and see which one of these formulas is actually correct that I've written down that actually helps me and tells me. Okay. So A says perimeter equals width plus length. Is that one of our options? Absolutely not. So I know it's not A. B says perimeter equals 2L plus 2W. Do I see 2L plus 2W? Yes, right here. So this is an option. I like to just put a little dot and I'll come back to it just to double check. C says that perimeter equals length times width. Any length times width? Nope, that kind of looks like area, as you can see, but that's not what I'm searching for. So it's not going to be C. And then D says perimeter equals 2 plus W plus 2 plus L. No, those go together, not separate. So I know it's not D, so I was correct when I said it was B. Okay, so making sure we know our formulas. Okay, so that's all we're going to work on for right now. Again, at any point in time where you are able to look at this, guys, if you don't have your packets, not a big deal, I promise. Get out some paper and pencil and do this. All we're going to be doing for math now is review. So this is stuff that we've done before, but we may have just forgotten how it worked, okay? So I'm going to stop sharing this. And if you have any questions, you guys are more than welcome to email me or I don't know if we're gonna have the comments on, sorry. Comment on the Facebook page or anything like that. Just let us know if there's anything. Like I said, we're gonna be doing these math videos where it'll either be me or Miss Brown posting them. We'll be on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then of course you're getting with your teachers to work on any kind of small groups or anything that you need. So any questions, guys, please just reach out and let us know. Thanks, guys.